Hello and welcome to Bluebird Lane Creations. My name is Tiffany and it's time to get creative. So tonight I am going to begin a junk journal. This junk journal has a blue theme to it, but I want to start the process from the beginning and show people each of the steps that I'm going to take to build this junk journal. One of the things that I don't think people realize is that we actually use quite a bit of what people might refer to as junk in the junk journal, but we repurpose it to make it look beautiful. So I have this old book here that was falling apart, and I actually use the pages. They're set to the side here. Sometimes I glue on it, sometimes I use the pages for collaging. This one is a fashion book, and they've got some beautiful images that I can use in my journals. But essentially I took an X-Acto knife and I separated the text block from the cover. Now you can do this any size. I think that a fairly common size for a junk journal is about 6 inches wide and 9 inches tall, but they come in all sizes. So what I'm going to show you tonight, we're not going to work on the cover yet. We're going to, I want to go over some of the papers that I plan to make the signatures out of, and I want to put those together. I'm going to, in this journal, I am going to have, I'm going to have 3 signatures, and in each signature will be 10 pages. Now I use the term pages loosely because some of these are going to be bags, which will end up being maybe pockets. So we'll go over that a little bit more. I am in this journal, because it's specifically for somebody, I did decide to use a digital file from Etsy. I can't remember off the top of my head who the owner of that Etsy shop is, but I will have it linked in the description below. I particularly chose this one because of the colors of blue that we're going to find. I can share with you these digital pages, which are going to be in between the pages that I'm using, and they have this really rich blue in them. They've got some vintage ephemera in here and butterflies. This journal is going to end up being close to a prayer journal, although the recipient may choose to use it otherwise, but there will be a bit of faith-based journal cards, and we'll see those later. But these pages will be folded in half and bound in the center to create the signatures. So there's one. Here's another page with some journaling. So if this is creased in the middle, there will be a little journaling here and a little journaling here. And we may add something like lace to the edges and whatnot as we go. And there's some more journaling spots on the back. So that's another page. Here is another of the pages. Now I printed out 6 of these front and back, and I used a little bit thicker paper. This is a 80-pound weight paper, and so it's a little bit, it's thicker than copier paper, but not quite a cardstock. Well, I guess it could be, but it's not. I wouldn't make cards out of it, but it's thicker. And I printed 6 of these front and back. Some of them are repeat because there was only 4 or 5 options, and so I kind of mixed it up here. And I'm going to be using 2 of these colorful pages in each of the 3 signatures. So there will be a total of at least 10 pages in each signature, and 2 of those will be these digital prints. So just trying to these in here. And here's this one and the back. And these are just, they're so beautiful, and these butterflies are, I mean, the shadows just make them look like they're lifting off the pages. The color of blue we have in here, this darker blue, happens to be the recipient's favorite color. And that may have just given away who this is for, but hopefully she'll still be surprised. So I'm going to set the digitals to the side, and we're going to look over some of the papers. I want everybody to see what I'm choosing to use to create this junk journal. Now this is like a damask bag. It's just a flat paper bag. This one I was when I was shopping at my local craft shop. This is a small business. This is what they put my paper in that I bought that day to keep it, you know, protected. So I'm not going to throw this away. This is really cute. I love this print. It reminds me of something vintage, and that is right up my alley. I will end up having to cut this bag down. The way that I'm going to do that is I'm going to take the seam and I'm going to measure that out about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and right here I'll end up folding it back, and then I'll chop off the excess. That's going to give me the most leftovers that I could use to make embellishments in this journal, and you'll see more of that as we go. So I've got a paper bag. This is another smaller flat paper bag. It's, you know, it's been wrinkled from when I was carrying it, and I don't care. That, I think that adds to the character. This one is small enough that I won't have to, once it's folded in half and bound in as a signature, this will be a page. We may cut the edge and make this a pocket. And then this will already have a pocket where we can stick journaling cards. We may put some sort of paper over this with the digital kit. We will embellish these. So just another bag. I have a small, this is a bakery bag. I have some of these that I was gifted from a friend. So she closed down her bakery, and these have not been used for food, but you can use the ones that you have had food in. You just have to wipe them out, let them dry. So reusing something like this, and I will end up folding this. Now this will be a much smaller section, but it might hold a journaling card and be inside a page like this that's decorated, and it just gives varying sizes, which is appealing hopefully to this user. But now these are coffee stained papers. These, I did purchase a pack of these on Etsy. I have not ventured into coffee dyeing my own paper yet. Time-wise, that wasn't feasible when I purchased these, so I'm trying to use these up, and we'll see what I do next. I will list the shop on Etsy where I purchased the coffee stained papers, and I have a few of them that are going to be in this journal. This came from my pen pal and crafty friend Angela. She sent me the most amazing pen pal exchange packet. I can't even tell you how amazing this was. I kick myself repeatedly for not opening it on camera. I can tell you the ones in the future will be opened on camera. But what I did, and I did this before getting on screen with you, I ended up trimming this. This is vintage ledger paper, and this is the real deal. This is not a reproduction. And I'm going to be using the excess pieces in this journal. So I kept those because we will be using those. So I have this ledger paper. Now this, says May 1902. Typically with something like this, we would have to back it with more paper, but this one is really thick. So I'm not going to back this with other paper. I'm just going to bind this in as it is. We probably won't do much to change this because I really like this. So we'll see what comes to mind when we get to the decorating. This paper, this is a white paper. It's almost like a tracing paper, and I don't know if it'll come across on camera, but there's some tiny little grids in here, square with little lines across, and it's interesting. But texture and sound, I love it. So we're going to use some of that. Now this paper, this and some upcoming papers, I'll let you know, were purchased at estate sales. I just find old vintage paper in packets and I grab them. This ledger paper it's probably from the 80s or something. I have a packet of this and I just tear one off. I'm going to end up, maybe putting it like this in there, and we'll do some decoration or stamping or stenciling or something. This paper I also found at an estate sale. It's thin. It's not quite as thin as copy paper, but I really liked all the little flecks in it. It gives the allure of handmade paper, but it's not. There's no real texture to it. It feels like just plain paper. I'm probably going to throw in some fancy doilies just because these are really pretty. Someone gifted these to me, or I picked them up at an estate sale. I'm not sure. They will get, hopefully, I might have to cut these down a little bit, but they will get put into the book like this and sewn in. And I have two of them that I may end up gluing together so that both sides are shiny. I haven't decided yet. Now this piece, this is handmade paper. I mean, it came out of a book, but the book is like pressed paper, and this definitely has that texture and raised areas of the pulp and stuff in here. So I'm planning on using this as a page. And these 2 pages, I have an old cookbook. It is falling apart. I purchased it from a estate sale, probably for $1, and it's grunged up. I probably have to clean it a little, but these being the colors that I'm going for, I thought these would make great pages. Now they will be turned sideways, and they're not really intended to read what was there, but to provide a backdrop for maybe whatever we're going to be decorating. So we'll see what comes of these, but I've got a couple recipe pages. This also came from my friend Angela. She sent me that huge package of goodies, and I am going to probably be using some of that in each thing I make forever and ever. She gave me so much. This is just an old McCall's bag, Fabric House, must have been the store. Oh, I see. These are the companies maybe that they have at this particular store. It's clearly old, and we will be cutting this down and using this. I liked this blue that was on here. It really ties into some things that we're using, and we'll make that one work. Here is another couple grid papers. I thought this was really unique. It's got the rounded corners already, and it's got this circular. I've never seen this before. If someone knows what it is, I'd certainly like to find out. It's blank on the back. It has these round grids on here, and it looks like, degrees, so that you could graph circular. And then I've got this other piece of graph paper. Now I may not use every piece of graph paper. I have 30 pages, so I think I'm going to use everything here, but we'll see. This is another piece of that coffee dyed paper that I purchased on Etsy. So we'll be using that. This, I believe this came from Angela, but I'm not 100% certain on this one. It basically has some emboss, like someone tried to emboss on here, but it kind of tore a little bit. This is one of the other sheets I'm unsure of, because I certainly don't want it to tear more. However, if I can back this front and back with a cutout of paper, and cover most of this with something, then that won't be a problem. But I just really liked the way that looks, so maybe I can just back it on one side and the other side will have this kind of embossed. Anyway, that's just, obviously it was going to be headed towards the trash bin, and we are going to give it new life. Here's another piece of the ledger that I showed you earlier that Angela had gifted me. This is the bottom half, and we're going to use this for another section of the book, the journal. We went over one of these. This is just another. This one is definitely a trace paper. It's got some paint or something on the end, but this was from an estate sale. It is shiny and kind of waxy on one side, very much like a glassine bag here, and a little bit more matte finish and a different texture on this side, a little more rough. So we're going to make use of that. I have another piece of that hand pressed paper that we'll be using, and I think these two are repeats as well. So some with that white fleck in it, and this is another piece of the coffee dyed paper. It is so neat how each piece of coffee dyed paper is so original, with all the striations in this one. Some other ones were blotchy. This looks, looks dirty, but it's just coffee. And I can't even tell you how wonderful these things smell. They smell amazing. It dissipates over time, but when you take it out of the envelope, and even now holding it up, it smells so good. So that is the introduction of the papers that I get, kind of where I collect them from. And I think we're just going to dig into making some signatures. So I want to use, I think I'm going to use one of my digitals for the outside of each signature. Now let me think about that, because I don't want them next to each other. Okay, I'm going to rewind just a little bit. I'm going to use these. I think I'm going to use these pressed paper, this handmade paper, and we are going to have to cut some of this down a bit because we want this just about 6 inches. I'm going to be using my measuring tool here. Now this is, I'm just telling you right now, this is going to be loose measurements. I'm not going to be doing exact. I think as a card maker background, I definitely want to be precise measurements, but my videos are going to end up being more of a process video than a tutorial. And the reason being, because I don't want everyone to have exactly what I have. I don't want folks to have to not be creative. I want to follow someone exactly, and I'm leaning away from that. I'm trying to find something that I feel more creative at myself. So something like this, my first inclination is I want to cut that right there so it's perfectly aligned with this side, but I'm going to attempt to just tear this. And it's okay if it has that rough edge, because that's just going to give it some character in the book. So torn paper is something we use all the time. Maybe when you find something, it already has a torn edge. We're going to save this piece, and we may use this as, when we do have a straight edge like this, we may pair this up, glue that down, and use it as a tuck spot on one of the pages for, one of the beautiful journaling cards that well, here's a tag, but one of the tags or some ephemera or something that might tuck into that later. And we're going to go over some of that ephemera down the road. But I'm going to save that torn piece, and I'm going to use this for the outside of this one. So let's go ahead and throw in one of these coffee dyed papers. And I'm just going to start folding these in half. These papers, these are 8.5 by 11, so they will fit within the 6 and 9. And we're just going to start creating a signature. Now, a signature is a collection of pages that will get sewn into a binding and then put into the book. We're going to have 3 separate signatures, and each signature I'm planning on having probably about 10 pages. I think that's what I had decided, and the papers that I had pulled. So, you know, I want to get creative and have some varying color and some varying size, I think. So before we put that in, I'm going to go ahead and I'll do one of these. I'll just fold this right over. Now these did not print on both sides. I had in my printer, I had to turn the paper over after it printed on one and send it back through for the second. So, so there's that. We've got 1, 2, 3, and 4. Let's see, maybe we can put a piece of the graphing paper in. And I think I'm going to put the holes on the bottom. Like that. I do want one of my bags in here. Start with the easy one. The other ones I'm going to have to trim. This one, just get an approximate here. I'm probably not even on screen. I'm learning my space for my videos. My camera is up higher, so I can't actually see what I'm doing. That may change in the future because it would be nice to be able to see my camera. Alright, get a few more in here. And actually, I'm going to pause for just a second. I may not glue these together. I may use those separate. Let's just see what happens here. See if I can find center. I'm trying to line these up a little bit. We'll have to probably trim the top and bottom, which we can do after we sew that in. Let's see what else. Oh, did we put let's throw one of these larger papers in. Then we'll put another one of the digital kits. And I could be fancy and score these, and but for this, I want to see, you know, how much I can get done and save time and simplify on the tools, you know, make sure I'm not over purchasing items. So let's see, what do we have here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We need one more. Let's see what I haven't used yet. Use one of these darker pieces. And 10. So this is my first signature, and you know, we may have to do some trimming, or this may all fit. Essentially, these are going to be bound into my cup. We're going to cover this. We're gonna do a whole cleanup job on this, but I want them to fit within this, so I may have to do some trimming. Obviously, I don't want those sticking out that far. This may not be that bad, but I'll probably trim it since this is the only paper sticking out that far. But we're going to make a couple more of those. So that's one signature. And let's see what I want to use for my... Start with a coffee stained paper on this one. And throw one of these digital prints in there. I'm going to put this way because I want to make sure that stays my front. I wanted to take a minute while I'm folding some of these pages and thank you all of the folks that watched my first video. I cannot tell you how amazed and almost emotional that I felt having so many people watch and comment on my first video. I've had so much support, and my very first video, which, you know, I just made a little tag that was kind of like a matchbook, and a matchbook that had a little notepad when you opened it up. And it was just a small project, but I wanted to kind of test my first video out and see how it felt. So I picked a more simple project, but I ended up with 50 subscribers, which is just astounding to me. And I haven't even really posted it in any groups that I've been in. That's just family, friends, people I'm in a group called Tania from Tatty Treasures has a Facebook group that I'm part of, and I cannot tell you the support and encouragement from these ladies that I have received in this group. It's been so amazing. So I am a moderator for that group, and with their encouragement, I have really stepped out of my comfort zone to really make this happen. And this has been a dream of mine for a long time. So I would just really want to say thank you to everybody that took the time to watch that, or maybe if this is your first video, that maybe you go back and watch that video to show your support. But I am just so happy to have you here. I would appreciate anybody willing to subscribe to my channel and provide comments. And certainly if you want to stay informed of my videos, please hit the subscribe button. It helps me so much. And this journey, I'm really looking to grow and get to know people and really just start learning some new things. Let's see where we're at here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. We need 3 more. And we have got some graph paper. Let's put this little piece of trace paper in here. So I think this video is going to end up being a 3, possibly a 4-parter. Today I'm going to go over these signatures and putting these together. In my next video, we will be, we're going to cover the cover. We will create the binding piece, and we will stitch these signatures into the binding and glue that into the book. So we're going to be doing a lot there. And then the third video, I'm going to go over the ephemera that I have cut out, and we will start decorating our journal, making pockets and tucks and hidden things, and we're going to learn some stuff together. We're going to learn what works, what doesn't work, all of that. So, lost a piece of paper. Okay, I think I'm going to use this bag here. So we are going to have to do a little cutting. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to kind of fold it about there. And the reason I'm folding it this way is this is going to give me the most excess. Because I could fold this in half, but then I'd have to trim both sides. This way I'm only going to be trimming one side. And we will get a lot left over to use in our journal. And I'm just going to take my scissors on this. I'm not even going to use my straight edge. And I am going to be cutting this open eventually, but so if I nick it, it's not the end of the world. But I just want to go, see, there I go, cutting into it right now. I just want to slice up this way. We're going to use this in the journal in some other fashion. Then, let's see, we've got, we're 9 inches tall, so I'm going to go about here. Oops. Okay, that didn't work. Don't want to be wasteful, so I am going to bring my trusty little Tim Holtz cutters, and we'll just get a little bit of a straight edge on this side. And since I have this out already and I've already nicked that edge, we will go ahead and get this just barely a sliver sliced open, and this will allow us to use that as a pocket. Okay, get some of this out of the way. We will use that piece as well. I save as many, I mean these scraps I'm not going to save, but as many scraps as I can, I do, because it does come in handy to have things that kind of match the journal, but I will use it on a different page so that they can kind of pulls it together and makes it a little more cohesive. So let's see where we are at with this one. Okay, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We need one more piece here. Let's see. What haven't I used yet? Oh, I could use this other. No, I'll use that in the last one. So we will put this in here. That'll make 10. I'm just going to count one more time. Do a lot of double checking, because once you sew these things in, you don't want anything upside down. We don't want these butterflies upside down, although in this one it probably wouldn't matter, but there are some times when the right side up matters. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Alright, so we have our second signature completed, or at least, counted out, and I'm going to put that there. Alright, we're on the home stretch here, folks. Let's see what we can do with this third signature. So, just giving these a little crease down the spine, and we'll get one of our color pieces in here. And let's get this doily in here. That'll be really pretty next to the blue. Try to match this up a little bit here, because then it will fold better. It's a little torn right there. I may take those doilies out before next time, because if they're tearing like this, we can always use them as a corner pocket to tuck things into, but they may not be strong enough for pages. So I may do that off camera before we meet again for the next episode before sewing these in. So if you see that these are missing, you'll understand why. It was because they just might be too fragile for this. Let's get our third piece of coffee dyed paper. I did end up putting one of these in each signature. I especially like them. Plus I enjoy kind of supporting the small businesses by buying these off of Etsy. I may try to make them in the future, but let's be honest, it is easier sometimes to pick something up. But my goal is that I don't buy a whole bunch of craft supplies anymore, that I try to utilize things that are here. We'll be making our spine of this book out of cereal box. So I've got some plans for using items around the house to make journals with, so that if someone from home that does not have a craft room or is not a crafter wants to pick up and do something like this, that they can see how that can be done easily with items around the house. So we'll try to make that as easy as possible. If you have any questions, I will be reading through all my comments, and I certainly would reply back, or maybe it's something that I can cover in an upcoming video. So certainly leave me your thoughts. Now I want to fit this bag in here, but I think, let's see, this bag is 10 inches, so we're definitely going to need to cut that down. And what we can do, we can cut, let's see, trying to see where it's folded already. So it's folded a little bit more than we want it to. We need it about right there. I'm going to take, this is about 1 inch to the blue line, but I want the blue line, me and my needing to be centered, which we just talked about. I'm steering away from it. But on this piece, I am going to do two things here. I need to cut it up this way. So I'm going to cut this out there. Cut that, and then I need to cut, I'm just going to cut this about halfway on each side. That'll be okay. And also on this side. Now what I'm going to do, because now these are cut apart except for at the end, I'm just going to take a little bit of glue. I'll take my pin out here. Gosh, I haven't used this glue in about a week because of Thanksgiving. We were gone. I'm just going to take I'm going to use the fine point. Oh, look at this old receipt we found in here. Oh man, I cut it. Darn it. Should have checked in there. I may still find a way to use this in something, so I'm going to keep it. I'm going to use I use the fine point tip on here. It comes with the wider tip, but I put this tip on to give me a little bit more accuracy when doing, especially something like this where I don't want to run a lot of glue, but just a small bead right up the edge of this bag. And then essentially we're going to glue it down like it was never cut open. This glue dries really fast, so there is no mucking around. Let me get some of this stuff out of the way here. Okay, and then we want to go ahead and I'm going to do the same thing and run a bead of glue on this side. So that will dry. We will use this. I will probably, I guess I could do that now since we just glued that down. I'm going to go ahead and cut open the edge of this guy. Alright. So when this is sewn into the journal, we will have a tuck spot here, and then in the other side of the signature we'll have a tuck spot here. So see how we use that bag? That's pretty cool. I have a little bit of a crease here from being folded the way it was for so many years, but that's okay. That'll flatten out over time in our book. So let's throw in a piece of this. This is a more green grid paper. Got our other, this is our last digital page here. Sorry, let me bring this up here where you guys can see. Apologize for that. Let's see how many pages we're at here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We need 2 more pages. All right. I need a piece of this. This is that. It's thicker than tissue paper, obviously, but it's almost like tracing paper. It just has a little bit of lines in it. I like it. Put one of those in here. And let's see. I have another piece of graphic paper that I want to use in here, so I'm going to put this piece of graphic paper back a little bit further. And our last page in here will be this one. It's got lines like college ruled lines on one side and graph paper on the other. So that'll be a fun. This was also an Etsy find. Sorry, not an Etsy find, an estate sale. They're like the 2 places that I shop all the time. Mostly estate sales or in my own kitchen. Going through my recycle bin and saying, don't throw that away, don't throw that one away, that bag will be perfect. And my husband rolling his eyes and saying, okay, I'll remember next time. But all right, so we now have 3 signatures that we will have to. I'll probably replace these doilies. It was a good idea, but I don't think it's going to work out. But we will probably use these in our junk journal. We just need to, so you can see the 3 signatures, and these will be sewn into a binding, and then that binding will get glued where the binding used to be here. And once it's stuck down, we have a junk journal. And then we will page by page go through here and we'll do some decorating. I have some really cool part of this digital kit. This is like this. We're going to fold this. This will be an envelope, and we might glue that down to a paper, and then maybe within we'll find little places to put some of these things to make this journal specific for the person I'm creating this for. So I think that is where I would like to end today's video. We will pick up next time. We're going to cover this with material. We're going to create our binding and sew our signatures into the binding and glue that in here. And then that will have to sit, and we'll glue that down really good, pinch it here so it gets stuck down, and let that glue, and then we will film a 3rd video and possibly a 4th with creating ephemera and decorating our book up. I might have some things pre-made, but I will be making something similar to it on camera so you can see how I'm making these things. And yeah, that was fun. I appreciate you guys more than I can tell you, and we'll see you next time. Thank you.